Hello everyone and welcome back. This is my test world again, playing Feed the Beast. I haven't done one of these videos in a while, and there's some cool stuff I've been messing with, so I wanted to show it off. And of course we've got, all the stuff we looked at before, ComputerCraft, thermal expansion, kind of stuff I still have set up, which really doesn't need to be on anymore, I guess. I don't really use it. Some Mistcraft stuff, some force field stuff I've been messing with, but today, and it is starting to rain, today we're going to look at two mods, mostly Redpower, a little bit ComputerCraft. These are two mods I've been working with worked with them a little bit yesterday, and then today I'm trying to wrap my head around frames and frame motors, and these guys, the battery box, plus all the wiring and all this sort of different stuff. Redpower is a mod I mostly stay away from. If we look up the creative mode slots for it, we can see that it has the Redpower machinery. I do use like the relays. I use those. I've used the pneumatic pipes, the project tables, but other than that, I can't say I've really used anything in here. No, I pretty much don't use any of this stuff. Redpower's got a lot of stuff in it in here. So we can go to Redpower micro blocks. So this is all Redpower. There's quite a bit to this. Redpower wiring and logic. The only one in here that I've used before has been the timer, which is somewhere in here. I don't see it. It's it's somewhere in. Oh, right here. Yeah, right here. The timer, which I actually have in my inventory, which I'll show off a little bit today, I think. And that would be about it. The coolest thing in here definitely is the wireless receivers and transmitters. That's, in my opinion, that's the best part of the entirety of Redpower. But I don't even use that much. So most people will use the pneumatic piping. This is what people use to import into barrels and set up most of their item storage. And it's what I was using with my quarry for a long time until I figured out that applied energistics, everything in applied energistics is so much better. But I was using that basically before beta and all that stuff, or before FTB Ultimate. So there's those three, and then I think there's one more panel for Redpower stuff, Redpower lighting. They've got some different lights in here, which is kind of cool, I guess, if you want to make these. So what I want to focus on today are frame motors, which are a really cool block, and they're these blocks right here. I'll grab one real quick and I'll throw it down. So the frame motor has one side with an arrow on it, and that's the most important side to note. We can see, if you can just see through these, I'll move these frames for a minute. I've got the arrows here pointing up and pointing down, and two frame motors. And so if I put these frames back down, we can see what happens when we press the button. You can see that it moves all of the frames up and down. So this is really handy. If you have a frame motor connected to a frame, it will move that frame. It'll also move just about any other block. Direwolf talked about them pretty recently, so if you want to check out his videos, you can do that as well. He made a really cool mining platform with them. But yeah, if you just press it, it will move basically any block. But if I put another block here, it won't push them. It's not like a piston. It won't push this block. I have to wait, and then I can move it. Now, why are frames different? Well, frames, as long as the frame is connected to the output face of the frame motor, that frame motor can move all of the frames, no matter how they're attached. So you can do whatever you want with this thing, and it will move them. Additionally, a frame motor can move not only the frames, but the frames will also move any block that's touching them. So I can move this block even though it's not directly touching my frame motor, but I can't move it if it's not touching a frame. So now it won't move. But if I do, say, like this, now it will move. There's a little bit of a graphical glitch there that you get when moving blocks into weird spaces, but it's whatever. So how do we use this? How do we make this work? First of all, these guys do need power. So we talked about Minecraft joules. We talked about the energy units that applied energistics uses. We talked about EU, that ComputerCraft uses. And there's a third type of power, or a fourth type of power, a fifth type, whatever power we're on now. And this is the blue electricity from Redpower. And we store it in battery boxes, and you can get it pretty easily from solar. I have been using, if I'm not using solar, I'm just putting it into batteries. So you can put energy into a battery, store it in here, and you can put it back in if you want. But otherwise the solar panels work pretty well. They're a little bit slow, but if you hook up a couple of them, you'll get some power pretty quickly. And the frame motors don't really use up a ton of power as it is. There's some other alternatives to make energy. You can use the windmills that they have, which is fine if you want to set up a wind farm. It just takes up a lot of space. You're definitely welcome to that. So there's also two other types of frames that are kind of noteworthy. I haven't really figured out too much what kind of uses I want for them. So if we go back to here, look at the machinery. We have the support frame, which is what I was just using. We have the tube frame and the redstone tube frame. So if we put down a tube frame, you can see it has a pneumatic pipe in it. So we actually can hook up a pneumatic pipe. And you can see that we can now move pneumatic pipes around. So that could be kind of cool. If you want to hook up one set of items to one thing and then you want to move them, you can just push them like this, hook them up to another set of items. That's kind of neat. And the other one is the redstone tube frame, which again works just like the other frames. You can move it, do whatever you want with it. But the cool thing about it is that if you output a redstone signal to it, it will actually pass that signal through to the other side. So now you can connect redstone that way, because you can't actually put redstone on. In fact, you can't really put a lot of things on these guys. So what you need instead are the Redpower micro blocks. You can use panels, or you can use covers. And they're two different things. I use whatever is available at the moment. So if I just put some tin covers, these are just made from tin blocks, and then I can put the redstone down. But here's the problem: I can't move it now. So why can't I move it? Because technically these guys aren't touching a block, and it's really weird how Redpower decides whether or not they're touching something, and it's a major source of headache. But I believe if you put these next to it, this should not work. Why is it not working? I think I spent like all day yesterday trying to debug my machines and figure out why they weren't working when they should have been working. Oh, I just totally took out. And actually, this is a good example. When you put down a frame motor, you can move its output face with using the screwdriver and change what direction it is. So there's an example of that. But yeah, these things are really a pain. Oh, I need to do this. Oh, of course. I was being a derp. When I put the two here, I didn't put one here. So these frame motors weren't actually attached, or these two support frames weren't actually attached to the bottom two. So that's why it wasn't working. So now if I press it, it goes up, and then put my button there. So now I can move it. Cool. And of course, I could put the redstone tube frames on the end of this and have it run that way. So if I put more redstone tube frames, I could extend a redstone signal and not have to put these guys next to it in order to make it work. Because again, if I take these off and then I try to run it, it's not going to run. So there's that to consider. So what's some applications of this? Well, we've seen some people, if you've looked around on YouTube, especially Direwolf, who's really good if you're trying to learn Feed the Beast stuff. He has a mining platform that simply rolls forward for a long time. And what it does is it kind of abuses the idea that you can move a frame motor with a frame motor. So there's some rules that go along with this, but you can move a frame motor with another frame motor. If we set up like this, and then if we just do this, so we've got a frame motor that's pointing this way. If we put down another frame motor here, and then we give this guy power, so if we take a battery box and then apply power here, and then we take a battery, which we have in here, which is just charged, So right now this battery box doesn't have any power. And we put it in the bottom slot, it'll put the power in, etc., etc. Grab this button real quick, and then put it down. We can move the frame motor. So why is this important? Because this frame motor can be turned. We can modify this a little bit. If I change the output face to the bottom side, and I move it like this, now watch what happens when I hook up. If I hook up these guys, and this isn't gonna work because I have it wrong. I have it incorrectly hooked up. Basically, if I were to have, oh, I put down that's a 2-frame. Basically, if I had this powered as well, which wouldn't really be that difficult to do. I have it kind of set up weird because I just kind of threw this together, and usually I think about these things a bit more before I do them. Where'd my battery go? Oh, it's in here. I have no more power. How does this thing not have power anymore? Maybe it does, and I'm just not checking it. Oh, I see, because it's traded power over to this guy already. Now if I move all this units over, and this didn't move because I didn't have it connected correctly, and that's just kind of how it is, but imagine that this had moved over with it. What I would then do is tell this guy, okay, now push this one over one. Repeat the process. This guy moves over another one, or this guy will push the entire setup over and repeat it. Basically, you have one machine, one frame motor that's moving the entire structure, and then the other frame motor that's moving that frame motor up again. And I'll show you exactly a more working setup, because that might be hard to explain because I did it poorly, which is this guy. So this is my elevator platform that I finally, after so much trial and error, got to work. What this is using is support frames and redstone tube frames to do the power. These two front units here that look like repeaters, these are timers, and I've used them before to set up the scrap and stuff in my mass fabricator. They simply output a redstone signal every so often. These are wireless receivers, so that means they receive a wireless signal from these wireless transmitters up here. And this is just how I control whether or not it's on or off. So I've got 4 frame motors, 2 battery boxes, which hopefully have battery power. I haven't checked in a while. Yeah, they do. And this one does too, right? Yeah, it does. Okay. So what happens here is, let's take this one. This side brings the whole structure up. So I've got 2 frame motors, this one and the other one. So if I apply a redstone signal, and I'll just grab a lever here, or no, I won't do that. If we just apply, I almost did it wrong. Now you can see this guy rose up. So what I did is I let it get powered once, and it sent power to this frame motor, which pushed this one up. Now if I send power to it again, you can see that this frame motor is connected to this whole frame setup, and it's pointing up. So what it'll do is it'll say, okay, if I can move everything, then I'm going to move everything up 1, including this bottom frame motor. So this frame motor is going to move up 1 level. This guy is going to stay the same. The frame motor that's doing the work is always going to stay in the same spot. So this guy is going to move up to the same level as the second one. And then once again, if I run this frame motor, I'll show you what happens. So basically, if I run the one that'll bring it all up, oh, I did it wrong again. All right, here we go. And you can see that the whole structure moved up, except for this frame motor, the one that actually moved it. But now it's in line with this one again. And if I run it again, as you might imagine, keep pressing the wrong one, it simply moves that frame motor back into position. So what this will do, if I leave it on, is simply bring the whole structure up every time, for every 2 pulses. So essentially every 4 seconds, because I have a pulse every 2 seconds, it'll raise the entire structure 1 block height. I have these wired backwards just because I had them hooked up to my computer earlier. That I've kind of done away with. I'll talk about it in a little bit, because I accidentally broke it and I lost all my programs. So I was not happy. But I'm pretty sure you can't copy and paste. So we've got the wireless transmitters here and wireless transmitters here, wireless receivers. So of course I've got it going up. I have to make it be able to go down. So if I flip the switch, you can see that the process is repeated on the other side. Just going the opposite direction. Now, the one thing to note here are these guys. These are the redstone tube frames, which again, I just have the redstone inputting to them. And you can see that just a little bit different frames. They're coming up here, and then they're inputting into both of the frame motors. And you get the same thing over here, getting the redstone signal from the bottom, and then inputting into this guy and the other guy, the other frame motor. So that means we can raise and lower a platform, which is great. I will be using this on my future base quite a bit. I want to use a lot of frame motors for things. And having it all set up to work like this is only one step of the process, because we need something else. We need to be able to tell it, okay, I need you to raise up, not only just keep raising up and then raise up indefinitely, I need you to raise up a certain amount. I don't want to just leave these things on for forever. I want them to raise up only a certain number of times. So my assumption and how I want to accomplish this is I want to do it with computers, because I don't know of any other way to say, like, this needs to run X number of times and then stop. Because I need to output a redstone pulse. Say, if I wanted this to go up 20 blocks, I'd have to output 40 redstone pulses, at least. Maybe 41, I'm not sure, just depending on how the configuration between these frame motors are. Because I need one pulse to raise the whole unit, and then another pulse to actually raise the frame motor itself so that I can reset it and then get it to run again. So I would need 40 pulses if I wanted to raise it 20 blocks. How do I do that, though? That's a good question. I don't know exactly how you would do that besides using computers, and unfortunately I'm not very good at them. So that brings me to ComputerCraft. These things are actually really easy to make. If we go to survival inventory and then we check computer, the recipe for these is just simply stone, redstone, and glass panes. You can make one of these easily within the first night of a Minecraft world and not feel like you lost anything. So, and I'll just show a couple of other things since I talked about them. The frame motors, taking some blue alloy ingots, which we make with. We got to use it. I think you use these I think you make these in an alloy furnace. Yeah, you do, with silver and nickelite. You probably have a ton of nickelite laying around, and then some silver is pretty easy. The alloy furnace is, of course, not too hard to make. And then a blue electric motor. Takes quite a bit of iron. And some copper. And diamond draw plate. Oh, well, that is... These things... You know, maybe I spoke too soon. These things are pretty expensive, these frame motors. These copper coils are pretty expensive. Wow, that's impressive. Interesting. So the support frames are pretty easy. They're just one brass and then sticks, and it makes the one support frame. Unfortunately, the brass is not fun to make. It takes 3 copper and 1 tin to make brass. Yeah, that's not fun at all. Not fun at all. You can make it with zinc too, and an alloy smelter. I always look for really easy recipes, but I'm not seeing anything in here. Unfortunately, that is quite the expensive recipe. Like, this would take quite a bit of brass to actually make. Alright. So let me set time to day again. Let's talk computers. Basically... Oh, this is a mess. Let's just get rid of this guy. Nope. It ate it. Let's get rid of this guy. Okay, let's put him down. So here we have a computer. Craft OS 1.5. Right? Okay. and you can see that it is activated. It's booted up. So a computer does some cool stuff. It's programmed in Lua, which is a pretty basic programming language. Gary's Mod uses it for most of its like mods and stuff. So that's my experience with it. I don't really know Lua. I've looked at it basically since last night, and that's about it. So we can type in programs and get a bunch of stuff in here. These are different programs that it automatically will give you. So if we say red pulse, it'll tell me the usage of it. So if I go red pulse, and I say left, and I say 1, and we'll say 4, I guess. And you can see that it pulsed for 4 seconds to that left side. So if we say that again, red pulse, left, and we'll do 4 pulses in 4 seconds. Or 4 pulses for 4 seconds, excuse me. I forgot. The period is how long each pulse is. So to do what I said before, red pulse, left, 4 pulses in 1 second. So it should do 4. I'm not sure if I just got lag there or if it didn't like it. That's 4 pulses that are a second long. So it's probably not exactly, oh, it fell off, 4 seconds, because there's that break between. But that's just like one command that's built in. And we can set any commands, we can make commands as much as we want. No, there is the copy command, isn't there? Nope. Copy source destination. Ah, I see, okay. So if we want to create a new program, we can say edit, let's say edit rise. So we're going to create a program called rise, and what it's going to do is it's going to tell our machine, our platform over there, to rise 1 block. So we can do this is where I try to figure out what the heck I'm doing. We want to say pulse equals function side. So what I've done here is I've said I'm going to create a new function called pulse, and it's going to pulse a certain side. So this is going to run every time for a side that I'm going to set later. So we're going to do redstone dot I think it's set output and side true. So what this does is it says, okay, when this is running, this is kind of the redstone or the pulse function here is kind of going to include all this stuff I'm going to put inside of the inside of the pulse function. So it's going to say, okay, redstone, it's going to set the output. So it's going to tell the output side, which again is a side that I'm going to set later. It's going to be the same side as this one, to be equal to true. So that means it'll turn it on. It will output a redstone signal. I'm going to tell it to sleep for, what is it? 0.8 seconds. And this is how long it takes for a frame motor to move usually. So we're just going to have it tell it to sleep. And then redstone.set output side false. So this is going to do exactly what you think it would do. And it's just going to turn off that redstone signal that we had on before. I'm going to tell it to sleep for 0.08 again. It's not really necessary because I'm going to end the program. Oop. Anyways, but I feel like that would be a good thing to do. The UI in here is really slow for me. I don't know if it's just lag or something. It's been slow even when I wasn't recording. And now we're going to do side, and we're going to tell it to output left. Or do we want it left? Yeah, we'll output left. Okay, So if we hit Control, we can bring up a little menu on the bottom and save. So we've saved that to Rise. So let's exit. Bring up the Control, exit, and go back to here. So if I type in Rise 8, attempt to call nil. All right, let's see let's try to debug this. Edit Rise. I think my problem might be that I've got. I think this needs to be capitalized. Oh, let's try saving that. Exit again. Rise. Nope, it's still calling nil. I don't know what that means because, again, I don't program in Lua. The only thing I'm using here for my own experience is what I've learned taking a Java class. Pulse equals function side redstone dot set output side true sleep redstone dot set output side false sleep again and end. Alright, well, I'm going to see what's going on here. I'm going to look up some resources and make sure I got this going right. So I'll be back. Alright, I figured out my issue here. I had this set to side, and it needs to say pulse. Also, this needed to be lowercase. So I went ahead and fixed this, and it seems to be working pretty well now. So let's go actually, and I'll show you what I mean. If I type in Rise, you can see that this piston extends. So what did it do? Once again, we can look at the code. So basically what it told it to do is output a redstone signal to the left, sleep for 0.8 seconds, and then turn it off. And it'll just output to the left every time we call that. So what can we do with this? What can we do with this? Well, what happens if I put in another command in here to pulse again? So I pulse a second time. So every time I run Rise, I can send a signal to, say, this guy over here. If I go in here and I delete and I get rid of this guy, if I put this here. So if I were to say, get out of this, exit. If I type in Rise, it's now going to tell my frame motor system to run one of its cycles. Now I've got to put it in twice because the first time I'm sending the signal in here to move the whole unit, and the second time I'm putting it in here, it's going to move just that other frame motor again. So what I would have to do is basically repeat the process, what I have written in here. Edit Rise, where I've got the redstone set output. I would just simply do this again. So I'd go down here and I'd type redstone set output true, and then false, have it wait, sleep 0.8 seconds twice, just to send the signal out there twice. What I don't know how to do quite yet is, even when I have that done, which I had before, how do I tell it, okay, run this pulse function X number of times when I say you should do that? And I don't actually know how to do it quite yet. I should hopefully be figuring it out very soon. What I'd like to do is have a bunch of these things raising and lowering at different levels for my base eventually, and it'll look really cool when it's done. But I need to make all this stuff, and unfortunately that requires quite the input of materials, something that I don't have quite yet. Again, I'm kind of waiting on diamonds just to make my force field system, which we'll talk about probably in the next episode. And yeah, that's about it for today, I think. I need to toy around with this some more. This is really cool, but very in-depth, and I'd like to learn a little bit more about Lua, but right now this is mostly just a carbon copy of what Direwolf made for his video, except for this top line, which I corrected because I knew was going to not work for me, just because of what I know from Java. His is written differently. If you try to copy his video, and I don't know how many of you guys watch him, but if you try to copy what he did, you might find that this top line works better for you. Pulse equals function side. He has function pulse, and then the side, but it didn't work for me, I don't think, because this wasn't instantiated yet in the code, and that's just more coding stuff. But yeah, anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed. My frames are dying, so it's a good time to sign off now. Thanks for watching, and until next time then.